Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another Transformers TCG tier list. And basically how these work, you get to find out I'm a total idiot. Anthony joining you once again. I have Tank in the room with me. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. I
Okay.
just won my round one of losers, and we were just laughing at an incredibly stupid video game.
Which, at the time this goes up, that stream will have already come and gone, but just go look up the game Brawl. It is so dumb.
It's so stupid.
But we're not here to talk about stupid physics engines. We're here to talk about some characters. And today we are going to be ranking every character in Wave BFA. Now, how this is going to work, if you haven't watched our other tier list videos, there will be a pinned comment down in the description for the super rare tier list, as well as the Wave 1 rares tier list that's over on Legendary's channel. Unfortunately, Legendary was not able to join us for this one, just due to life reasons, apparently. So how these work, we of course have 6 totally factual tiers. OPBL is the best, A, B, C, D, and Cup tier is it deserves to go die in a hole. No reaction out of Tank on that one. So, we're just going to go through. Me and Tank are going to argue with each other. I'm probably going to give a few hot takes. Tank is probably going to put something in OPBL tier who doesn't belong there.
So,
I'm looking at Grimlock on that one.
Hey, that was both Legendary and I. So, shoosh.
You're the only one in the room, so I have to blame you. Also, I just realized my mic is on the wrong setting. Sorry about that, folks. Hopefully I can tone that down in editing. Anyways, so let's get on it. Where should we start? Should we go in reverse set order, or should we start at the beginning?
I think we should start at the very beginning. And who is that? That's Ironic, right?
Yep, hold on. Time out. We're just going to cut away here for a second. Okay, we're back. Tank is currently opening up the Bayformer site. I already have it open, and let us start with Ironic. So, if you haven't seen this guy before, since, BFA cards aren't as ubiquitous just because, post-cancellation nonsense. Alt mode, when he defends, plan 1, and when he defends against a non-specialist, attacker can't use Pierce. And then bot mode, when he attacks and you flip at least blue, he gets plus attack equal to the number of damage counters on him. Essentially a souped-up version of Ransack. So, honestly, I think we put him in... he hasn't seen a whole lot of play, but he has his uses, and that anti-Pierce thing is nothing to slouch at, so I honestly think he deserves to go in low B tier.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same. I think that Ironic's anti-Pierce is a little bit overlooked just because we're still in a really bad bold orange meta. If you've been keeping an eye on the Bayformers tournaments, you'll know that orange decks usually tend to come out on top ahead of all the blue decks and such.
Right. And we saw that in Encounter 5. I mean, if you just look at the 2 Devastator decks that make the top 8, one of them advanced to top 4 and probably got crushed by Fort Max. The other did not. One of those was orange. Guess which one?
Yeah. And just Ironic's low health pool, and this is both for Ironic and the next one on the list, their low defenses in bot mode, even though I understand why, those hurt. So.
Yeah, it makes them never really want to flip to bot mode except in certain blue matchups, which does kind of hurt them a little bit. But again, Ironic, his anti-Pierce thing cannot be overlooked. Also, let's just take a moment to appreciate all of the custom art that is in this set.
Oh my gosh. Ironic, Ayuk.
We'll keep going. We'll mention it as goes on. Then we go over to Ayuk. I honestly think she's a little more not as ubiquitous as Ironic, just because her alt mode is a flip ability, and B is a bit more conditional, whereas Ironic's is universally good in basically any situation, so I think she belongs in C tier.
I was actually going to say the opposite. I think she belongs above Ironic. Ayuk's higher health pool, coupled with the tough and being able to return some of the most commonly used upgrades, like fusion bores, bashing shields, those kinds of things from your scrap pile back to your hand is really, really helpful.
I mean, I guess, but at the same time, we've seen Ironic floating around in a couple of lists before. I mean, Bill was using him in, I think, Encounter 4 and 5 as an anti-Pierce tool. How often has Ayuk shown up?
That's true. I can't argue with that. I just I don't think Ayuk is C tier because she definitely has her uses.
Okay, she's bottom of B tier. That's as low. Yeah. That's as high as I'll go.
I think Ayek and Ironic are on pretty equal footing. It's just that Ironic's Pierce reduction is really strong.
Yep, and plus Ayuk is a bit slow in a format where flips are kind of valuable just to make sure you can punt your opponent, so
Definitely.
that's the way I see it. So anyways, going to the opposite of things that can be punted. Alpha Sentinel. If you haven't seen this guy, he is a defensive powerhouse in alt mode, and he smashes things in bot mode. Of course, I'll have everything up on screen. You should know a thing or two about this. You were just playing him for losers.
I was playing him with localized tremors, and I'm not gonna lie, he's actually a little underwhelming.
Yeah.
That defensive buff looks a lot more strong than it really is.
Right.
And I had him in both a blue deck and an orange deck. He does well in either. Bill swears by Alpha Sentinel being in an orange deck from what he talked to me, or what we talked about before losers. And I get it. I really do. Having multiple characters with really high defense stats is huge. But he kind of suffers because he is your centerpiece. And with that comes, being able to support your other characters, which he does decently well. But you don't have a lot of options with him at 16 stars.
And plus, and I'm just going to cut in here, because there was a bit of hype going into him into BFA's 1.0 launch, because during testing, there was a lineup that involved him, Countdown, and Power Glide that was found to be able to consistently take down Sky Shadow. And that list really never materialized because Sky Shadow dipped off in the early going for the BFA scene, and now has jumped back up, and I don't think anybody's tried it since, and Sky Shadow's running around a little bit more, albeit, of course, he's been put in check with Garrus 9 as of late. But again, that anti-Sky Shadow list for Alpha Sentinel never really materialized. And I think that might be a bit of the disappointment that kind of surrounded him. Don't get me wrong, he is a cool character, and in Primus, he's an absolute beast. But if we're looking at standard constructed, he really doesn't do as much as one would like for someone of his size.
Yeah. Like, my current list, for those interested, I'm running Night Racer and the Sweep to try and maximize his alt mode effect. It's just not there. I hate to say it.
Again, Primus, it is an absolute beast. Like, I've run him in Primus a couple of times. He is just nuts. Like, I'm putting him in D tier if I had to put him somewhere.
Yeah, I hate to do it to him, but that's fair. He's useful, but he's not as useful as he probably could be. His alt mode effect is fun, but needing to damage yourself in the mode where he's most vulnerable, it's not fun. It's a drawback, and it's a good drawback, but, it is what it is.
Yeah. Speaking of characters that belong in D tier, I'm going to argue Armada deserves to go there as well. Like, Alpha Sentinel, at least people have at least found some uses for him in Primus. Armada, there is a use for him, so that's why I'm not putting him in Cup tier. But the problem is, Alpha Sentinel at least stuck for a little bit, and is still, of course, still sticking around in Primus. Of course, we're mainly looking at full constructed here, but that's a whole nother issue. Armada really has never stuck to begin with.
Yeah, I was actually going to argue Cup tier, just because the longer Armada stays alive, the bigger of a liability he becomes.
Yeah,
because you'll swing out with him first, and he'll be a 3/11/6, but right before the wheel, when you have no other untapped characters, and he's a 3/11/0, or 6/11/3 if you have all untapped characters, 3 spaceships, which I've done. I've gotten that.
I'm pretty sure you can play a 6-wide build with him that gets him up to 5 defense.
You can. It's oh my gosh.
It was Scourge, 3 sweeps, and I believe Shock Blast.
I don't think it was Shock Blast. I think the one that I saw was Vortex.
Oh yeah, Vortex. Yeah.
But that's also for each of your other untapped spaceships. So that's not going to get him up to 5. That's only going to get him up to 4.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you could sub in Shock Blast since he is a spaceship. But again, how much spaceship support do we have outside of unconventional flying object? It's non-existent, so...
And that was kind of the other thing I was going to say, is that Armada doesn't really care for the existing spaceship support. So he's really interesting, and I wish he was better, but, like, he's just not all there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm gonna move him to cup tier. Okay, so now let's talk about, we need to talk about this bastard.
The enabler! He is the enabler!
If you know anything about this channel, you know this bastard has traumatized me at least 15 million times. Him. Here's the thing, though. I like, the inner rage child in me wants to put him at OPBL tier just because of what this guy has done to me. The logical side of me says he's not that good, just because of the fact that he's essentially stapled to either Omega or Alpha Sentinel, and Last Line of Defense really hasn't made too much of a tournament splash outside of me running it for meme reasons in Encounter 1, and Alpha Sentinel we've already talked about.
Oh god, I should have run Countdown with Alpha Sentinel. I'm stupid. Oh well.
Anyway, so
I was actually gonna argue either A or OPBL, honestly.
Really?
The fact that he single-handedly pretty much brought Omega Supreme into the meta is pretty telling of how powerful Countdown is.
Well, again, I question how much he was brought into the meta, because he showed up in 2 decks for Encounter 1, both me and Legendary ran those, and then dipped, never to be seen again.
Right, but he was never played before that point at all.
Except for one appearance in the PPI. I forgot I played Omega and PPI for meme reasons. So
I think he's A tier. He enabled Omega Supreme to the point, or like the Omega Supreme, mind you, to the point where like he was able to compete in a tournament and see relative success.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, A tier it is. Okay, so moving on now, Pipes. So
Bill's favorite card.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna argue his abilities have potential. The problem is, how many, for his alt mode, how many defensive triple changers are there? And for his bot mode, it hard locks you to either, well actually, it more soft locks you to either single icon lists or double icon lists. And neither of those are particularly a good idea unless you're running him in an OA build. But throwing an Autobot into an OA build is very, very questionable.
So, I like both of Pipes' modes. I'm not gonna lie. I've played Pipes as a damage sponge with Octone, and he fares pretty well.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying his abilities are, like, not at all useful. I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of things, how viable do they make him in conjunction with the pieces it enables?
I don't think he's bad. I think you're underselling him a little bit, because, like, sure, you really want to run him either double icons or single icons.
Or if you're an absolute mad lad, no icons.
No, that wouldn't work. One or more battle icons.
Oh, well, that was our court-mandated incident for me not being able to read, ladies and gentlemen. You could all go home now.
You're dumb.
Again, now that the court marshals are out of here, yes, I know I used that term wrong. Deal with it. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't think he's bad. I'd probably put him high C tier. He is a little difficult to use.
Yeah, I was thinking C tier seems reasonable.
And trying to be a damage sponge at 6 stars with 10 health makes him a little tough to use in that regard. I think his best function is to continue pulling upgrades from your other characters.
Right, because
like,
we've seen
as an example,
we've seen him do a lot of things with a double grenade launcher swing on a wheel turn. So
yes,
yeah.
The big one with Pipes is that you can give him a grenade launcher, a fusion borer, an energon axe, and if for any reason that's scrapped from your other character, you reveal the top card of your deck. It's got 1 icon, it moves over to Pipes, and Pipes gets to use it himself. So he's got a lot of potential. It's just you kind of got to work with him a little bit. You really have to kind of build around Pipes' abilities.
But he doesn't have the stat line to support as a build-around character, really, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's
I think he can do it, but
yeah, probably it would just take the right build of cards and maybe some more in the future. Power Glide, so a triple changer weaponizer. I originally thought he was like the most powerful card in the game since he actually beat Omega, but remember that was 2020 me who was a total dumb with this game. Nowadays, he's a 4-star Battle Master. I guess, like, how good is this? Especially, I mean, his bot mode, at the very least, gives, plus Pierce against, like, blue-black decks, but how often are those running around in the current meta?
He did some really cool stuff but that was also supported on the back of the...
that we are censoring that because we do not talk about that.
Okay. I mean, it was...
Do not discuss the forbidden. Do not discuss the forbidden encounter. Do not discuss the forbidden encounter.
All right, fine. He did it! He got really far in the... You can't deny it! Go look and tell it! No, I'm kidding.
That whole section is gonna be bleeped out.
Yeah, okay.
But ignoring the event that may or may not exist...
Ignoring the event that may or may not exist, he's got some really cool abilities.
Like, don't get me wrong, like, turning every blue weapon into something with a green icon, essentially, is really fun.
That is
it's like,
huge.
Hey, hey, Laser Cutlass, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, hey, Laser Cutlass, hey, Energon Axe, hey,
What other blue weapons are there? Could somebody make some more blue weapons, please? We're running low on players here.
Oh, gosh. Dismantling Claw already has a green.
Dismantling Claw, you are not even scraping the bottom of the barrel. You are going through it.
Shut. I just played it. Oh, Energon Sword, from Arc.
That's a bit situational.
It's still a blue weapon. You asked for blue weapons. I told you blue weapons.
Touche. Anyways, where are we putting this guy?
I think he's B tier. Yeah, he's good. He's not crazy, but
I don't think he's B tier. I think he's C tier. High C tier, if I had to guess.
High C tier. Yeah, he's kind of borderlining. I think with his strat and pushing him up a couple stars to give him a little extra health, a little extra utility, that's where he really shines. But as a 4-star Battle Master by himself, yeah, he's okay. You probably have better options. Shock Blast, but
yeah, Shock Blast for sure. So, let's go ahead and move on to the only Titan Master in this set, Crash Bash. Wait, okay, is Vangelis gone? Okay, good. Okay, let's talk about Axor now.
I like Axor. I just wish he was better. Unfortunately, that's a case for a lot of these characters. As much as I love Bayformers and all the really awesome cards they've done, there's so many of them where I'm like, damn, I wish this had been made better. Just a little bit.
Because, like, if you're wondering why I made the Vangelis joke, it's because I think every encounter, except possibly Encounter 5, Vangelis was running some sort of Axor bullshit.
Right.
And, like, don't get me wrong, Axor is a neat ability. Like, the potential he has is incredible with stuff like Detritus or Lockdown. But the one mercenary that would really take advantage of this Octone, that's a 21-star package. And are you really willing to invest that on a character that has a 2/12/2 stat line and no other effects since he's an Action Master and can't flip?
Yeah, and that 2/12/2 stat line, that almost entirely comes down to his strat, the off-road cycle.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just, he's got a really, again, it's one of those things where I love his actual ability text. That is some of the most interesting ability text, because Axor is kind of one of those, in terms of canon, Axor is kind of one of those characters with a gray morality, so it makes sense that he would have some kind of association, synergy with your mercenaries, but he's a little weak, which is unfortunate.
Plus, it's more mercenary support than WotC gave after Wave 4.
Yikes, you're not wrong!
But where are you putting this? I'm gonna say high D tier, and I know that's gonna piss Vangelis off, but we're being objective here.
Yeah. He's got a really cool ability, but his stat line is a little below par, and it's unfortunately not enough to make up for the lackluster ability.
Right. Okay. So moving on, now we're actually going to talk about Crash Bash. I honestly will make the case that he belongs in OPBL tier.
I was going to make the same case. He is like
the ultimate power hitter that isn't named Nemesis in a blue deck. Like, that is just insane on its own. Like, how often do you have that style of play in a blue deck? Like, never, unless you're playing Nemesis, but that's a 12-star investment. He's a 7-star minimum, and admittedly, he does get a little weaker with the health heads being banned in Bayformers formats, but still...
I don't know about that. The choices that you have to give Crash Bash a head, I think that like, not only is his bot mode ability also body mode ability also kind of a sleeper, but like, he's just all around an incredibly versatile character. If you flip an orange and a blue in his body mode, guess what? The attack damage you just dealt can get moved to another character. So your opponent's stupid little countdown, or that character they've been protecting with Safeguard for the last 27 turns, yeah, Crash Bash can nuke them for no apparent reason, and it's great. I love it.
Also, I just realized this. You could theoretically run Crash Bash in an orange build and play Cooling of Tensions, negate your opponent's tough, and just smack in for 8 attack. Unless you, 8 attack. Unless you have a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and also, Cooling of Tensions, you see it on screen, it's a BFB card. But, like, and also, like, there's a reason he was the Season 1 playmat for the Bayformer circuit. It's because of how much of an impact he made on the meta from the get-go. I mean, the first winning list in the Encounter series had Crash Bash on it in a Cars deck, of all things. So that should tell you how much power he was packing behind him. And Tank, you made top 4 of that event with Crash Bash as well.
Yeah, the first encounter, encounter 1, I managed to get 3rd place with Kiddie Pool, for those of you who know the name of the deck. That is Crash Bash, Horrible, Fangry, and the Health Heads. The deck is unfortunately no longer legal because of things and
Health
stuff.
Heads getting banned.
Health Heads getting banned. But I don't necessarily think the list is going to go away. I think it's just going to come back in a new form eventually.
Right.
So
yeah. But
it's a really good list.
But looking at a Crash Bash in a vacuum, absolutely deserves to be an OPBL tier. Mm. So, moving on to a bit of an enigma, we have Double Crosser. Now, this is an interesting one because there were a few pieces in this set of anti-Titanmaster pieces. None of them really ever caught on, and Double Crosser is probably the less good of the two, just because of the fact he's a 7-star investment, and his ult mode is not at all any slouch. Like, it reduces Pierce by minimum 2, usually 3 or 4, and that's nothing to, again, slouch at, but he's a 7-star Battle Master, and if you're doing that, you might as well be playing Aimless or Fire Drive or Lionizer.
I mean, it can theoretically, if you do like an orange deck that has a lot of defense, he has a very strong slot.
Right, but at the same time, like, we've been speculating about orange defensive decks for a while now with stuff like Whipped into Shape, and we've just never seen them materialize. Yeah. Like, that could definitely be changing in the future if you run some weird janky on, like, Bandit deck that for some reason has an insane amount of defensive tools, which, I mean, they already do it Dare to be stupid, but why would you play a Decepticon Battle Master that negates Pierce over just another Junkion and take more advantage of the tools they have?
That's very true. I think Double Crosser is unfortunately a symptom of the meta at the time. The Wave 5, 3 Titan Masters, orange, black,
and or
just
Sky Shadow.
Vomit, or Sky Shadow. Unfortunately, he's just kind of symptomatic of that.
Right. And he was designed to counter that meta, and then that meta faded away, and he never saw play, and then it slowly roared back, and everybody just kind of forgot about him, and just because of how much of an investment he is. As I accidentally drop a Warhammer piece, and thankfully nothing got damaged. But yeah, like, he does have some support coming up in BFB with for the selectors, which allows you to run 2 of him, which I feel like that could be fun in a jank build with Crosshairs and his arc strat.
Oh,
but
definitely.
At this point, like, he has not made enough of a splash to, like, I'd say put him above C tier.
Yeah, if you're looking strictly in a competitive sense, I would put him in C tier. I think above I think above Power Glide. I like him a little bit more
I
than
would
Power
agree.
Glide.
Yeah,
Just because his upgrade ability is really strong.
right.
Even if like his bot mode stuff isn't perfect, his upgrade ability or his upgrade side makes up for a lot of his shortcomings.
Right. Speaking of shortcomings or lack thereof, exhaust OPBL tier without question. The question is
Above Crash Bash.
Yep,
Above
I was
Crash
about
Bash.
to say this guy has single-handedly, aside from Crash Bash, redefined what the Bayformers like metagame looks like. Like, what is there to not like about him? Remember that list I mentioned earlier with Crash Bash and a Cars deck? Exhaust was the other car aside from Cliff Jumper, and let's just look at what Exhaust has going for him. An insane attack stat line in alt mode, self-damaging triggers which help with Brutal Conditioning, which with him, I mean, Brutal Conditioning might as well just say it's a strat for Exhaust, plus attack boost for damaging yourself, so it plays well with Cayman Crash, despite what I may have said in the BFA video, every card 9 words or less video for BFA. Bot mode is not a slouch either, especially once you get Beacon onto him. And then he's able to move damage around the field. So, like, what is there not to like him? Also, he's a one-card opportune engine, which has caused some controversy, but we're not talking about that here.
Yeah, Exhaust is a walking meta in and of himself.
Right.
Like, his ability to activate and use Beacon with an incredible level of efficiency, enabling the opportune cards, putting him in Decepticon decks, Merc decks. He is far and away probably the standout character from BFA aside from Crash Bash.
Without
like Countdown, I love Countdown. He's really good. I'm glad he brought Omega in. But if I said BFA, the character you're probably going to think of is Exhaust.
Right, absolutely. Also, he always had red wheels. So, I'm just trying to think here, like, what else is there to say about him?
Not a lot. He's very strong. Again, there's a lot of controversy about him around him right now. That's all being talked about.
Yep.
You'll probably see more information about him in the future, but up for debate right now.
We'll see what happens. So, now we're getting into more of the Quintesson territory. Deliberata. Like, on the one hand, he does see a lot of play. On the other hand, it's because the other option for his slot is pretty bad, so you kind of have to run him.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, he's a great draw engine, and for the shark archetype.
Right. Again,
I would not put him in C tier.
No, I'm just setting that there for. I'm just setting that there for now.
Oh.
Like, if you
I thought you were just generally putting him in C tier, like, this guy's bad. And I was like, what?
But again, I asked the question, where is the reason Deliberata seeing play because he's good? Stop, and where the start of Deliberata sees play because you kind of have to play him with Sharks is. If
you can't play. I mean, I get it. You can't play a shark, a Pit of Judgment deck without a judge on your side of the board.
Right, and the other option is just utter ass. Like, there's no way of beating around the bush. It is just bad. At least in context. Yeah. So, like, again, I recognize Deliberata's power, but again, how much of this should we be judging off of the fact that he's good, and how much should we be judging off the fact that you kind of have to use him?
I generally think he's just good. I don't think he's bad, and he is kind of he's the linchpin of your Quintesson deck. I think he's high B tier because he is the engine of a Sharks deck. You can't get away without him. So
right. Moving on to a Quintesson that I think we have no disagreement on. Gyrick, A tier. Prove me wrong.
No, I can't. Gyric's got good abilities. Gyric's cool.
Everybody, I guarantee you, everyone who's read this card focuses on that utility scrapping ability and completely ignores the fact that he reduces opponent's character's health. The amount of times that has saved my ass, including against an extremely degenerate deck that Naga is currently using, is innumerable. Like, there is a reason I say free Gyrick when every time an alive on one situation happens, and that is because of how good that -1 is. Like, it seems so incidental, but once you start to see how much it comes into play, you're like, how can I not play without this guy?
Also of note, utilities are the hardest upgrades to scrap.
Exactly.
And Gyrick just gets to do that for free.
Yep.
He's real good.
And he gets Bold and Pierce off of it. Now, so... And I was about to say he enables mission briefing, but not anymore.
Thanks, Hand of Adaptus, for single-handedly f***ing over every deck that I hate.
Also, just a fair warning for the channel in the future. Expect me to call that thing Hand of Adeptus way too many times. God, I played too much Warhammer.
Adeptus Astartes.
Tank gets the joke. Speaking of powerhouse quintessons, I guess Gilthor? Like, where do we put this guy? Like, he has strong abilities. He's one of the few characters, or one of the few cards in general, that's able to flip opponents to other modes. I think the only other ones are, like, Battering Ram, Cornered, and Abominus. But, like, he really hasn't seen a whole lot of play. Because, like, he fits into that OPBL niche of just being an all-arounder that can do everything. And one thing he really can't do well is defend, is the problem.
I mean, he can. He's got all the same tank cards available to him that are available with every other tank.
I mean, I guess. And he does have the one-up on other tanks that he can negate Pierce in bot mode as long as your opponent's playing an orange deck. But if you're playing against a blue deck, I mean, you're kind of screwed, I guess.
I mean, blue decks still want to play a little bit of orange. Things like Sparring Gear and even Bashing Shield in a blue deck to help get that damage through. Thermal weaponry. Yeah, that's also one that sees play pretty regularly.
Yeah. Also,
there's a handful of orange cards, so, you know, it's not going to be, like, a perfect counter, but I think Gilthor has enough tools at his disposal to deal with them.
Right, and plus, we do also have to take into consideration that in BFB, he's finally getting a tentacle that isn't locked to a judge, so that will allow his plus defense and bolts abilities to get turned on finally. Because previously, in order to use that, you had to play a 2-wide build with either Deliberata or Clementia, or a really janky 3-wide build with Drebzik, and neither of those were particularly good. So now we're going to have the ability to access him. Albeit the question is, do you run him in a full Quintesson build to maximize the tentacles, or do you want to run him alone with just some other random characters, similar to how OPBL was run in the Wave 2-3 meta days?
Hi, Warpath with Trop Strat. I see you over there. You're my new best friend.
Oh, that's a good idea. But Gilthor, high B tier?
Gilthor, high B tier. I think he's top of B tier. I don't think he's made A quite yet. I think the tools that he's getting, like you said, those are going to push him up. But he's good for now. He'll get better with time.
Right. Speaking of Drebzik, I'm tempted to put this thing in cup tier.
Yeah, I hate to do this to Drebzik, but he's the same symptomatic issues of
the blue,
what's his name?
The orange
Double Crosser.
Yeah, Double Crosser, like more so the Titan Master side. Like you can still see the symptoms of Orange Black Wave 5 floating around because of the fact that you can just modify your opponent's top decks or flips in order to prevent maximum attack bonuses. But orange decks are throwing out a shit ton of bowls, so how much is that going to matter in the grand scheme of things? Also, you have to tap him in order to turn off Titan Master bonuses, and in BFB, we're getting a card that does that on a secret action, so...
Yeah. Unfortunately, and not to mention, Drebzik has a 1-2 stat line on a 7-star.
Right.
Like,
also,
he can barely attack, he can just defend, and his health is, I think, on par.
Yeah.
So.
Also, the fact that he's not a judge also hurts him, because I'm pretty sure if he was a judge, you'd be able to run a 5-wide Sharks build with Pit of Judgment. I'm pretty sure. Wait, can we get... Hold on, we're checking the math.
I'm pretty sure that would be broken as hell.
I'm checking
if you could run a 5-wide Sharks deck with Drebzik.
Yeah, that is a... That would be completely legal, because Drebzik plus 4 Sharks is 23 stars. You got your 2 stars off of the Nebulous Spotlight, and then Pit, that's 25.
That's bad. That would
Yeah.
be so bad.
Yeah, with 5 revives, like 4's already bad. Or wait, yeah, 4's already bad. 5 revives, that would be nuts. So it's kind of a good thing that he's not a judge, but at the same time, it does kind of,
I mean, if he was a judge, that would
unironically-
probably... If he was a judge, that would probably up his usefulness, because he would be the cheapest judge,
Yep.
even though his abilities do not align with what you want to do with the other Sharkticons at all.
Yeah,
But-
also, so basically, the fact that he's not a judge, he runs the Pit of Judgment, but ironically, he's gonna get thrown into it.
Womp womp, sad noises.
I'm surprised you didn't call me out for not knowing the lore there, because I just randomly guessed that.
I think he did get thrown, or he either got thrown in the pit or he got eaten in the movie. I can't
No,
remember.
I was talking about him running the Pit of Judgment.
Oh, yeah, not really.
Okay, anyways. Speaking of bad judges, Clementia. Now, I do want to put an asterisk on putting Clementia, low, just because of the fact that it really isn't a good idea to run a judge in a 2-wide build, which is what most people did with Clementia with Gilthor. And it really doesn't play well into how Sharks want to play, just because Clementia repairs damage, and Sharks are dying to stiff breezes, so it's like... Or stiff breezes, I can speak. I said stiffed, what the hell?
Clementia's just kind of tough. I hate to say it.
I would put Clementia in D tier. I'm not putting it in cup tier just because, again, it's symptomatic of the way that most other Quintessons want to play, and its star cost. But it just, yeah.
I mean, Clementia's ability to give characters plus attack or minus attack equal to the number of tentacles on it, that is really cool. It's just unfortunate there's no way to...
Take advantage of that?
Yeah, you can't actually apply that negative attack bonus to an enemy character and make it meaningful. Because you're not going to tap him on your enemy's turn. You can't do that.
The only thing I can think of for this is putting it on a Shark that has a slight attack boost in order to get under the threshold for Nitro boosters or Sidecar Artillery, but why would you want to do that except Nitro boosters maybe on a wheel turn? But again, that's until end of turn, so... Yeah. I don't get it. That ability, I don't like to criticize this kind of stuff, but that one is just what was Bill thinking on that one?
What is this? Yeah. He'll find his place, but it's not in a Sharkticon list.
Yep.
Sad noises.
Speaking of needing to find a place, Locos. Now, we aren't looking at this with the health heads in consideration because those have been banned, but even then, 3 stars for Plan 2. How good is that?
The issue with that is that it's situational.
Very.
It enables Crash Bash in an OA build, if you want to do that.
But how good are OA builds in the modern metagame?
And that's what I was about to say but that's 9 stars. You still need a way to draw cards. You still need the actual OA kit. You need characters who also want to use or take advantage of OA. You're probably better off going with a defense head or an attack head
yeah, very much.
Or BFB's Quig to reduce Pierce.
Right.
But, yeah. I don't hate him. I don't think he's great either. He's C tier, honestly. He's got a really cool ability, but it's too situational.
I'd beg to differ. I'd say he's D tier. And since since I'm running the tier list, I can put it down there and not listen to you at all.
I love his art, though. I love his art.
Yeah, let's not overlook the fact that custom art is always a good thing. Anyways, mind control collar, and I really don't think we can talk about the mind control collar without also talking about the mind control helmet. These two are very much attached to one another.
They're the same, but I think one is markedly better than the other. My personal opinion.
Yeah, I honestly don't know which one you're referring to.
Yeah, I personally I think that the helmet or the collar, honestly, It's probably B tier. It's a really good head. It enables the maceration laser and a lot of the other Quint tech
Right.
for your body mode characters. The helmet, oppositely, is a good mark above the collar. Reason being, it has Safeguard 3 on a 1-star head. That you cannot get that any other way unless you're running Convex, which is 3
4
stars.
stars.
Oh, he's 4? I thought he was 3.
I thought he was 4. Hold on, I'm gonna Google. TCG Convex. If I can.
I'm pretty sure he's 3.
I thought he was 4. No, he's 4.
Oh, he is 4. Ah!
Yeah.
Ugh!
Now
He's 4 stars!
The one downside is that the helmets or the Quint heads automatically.
They explode upon deploy.
Yeah. We just had to cut that bit out because I phrased that really badly.
Yeah, the 2 Quint heads, they're KO upon deploy. It stinks because it eliminates a lot of the actual usefulness that Titan Masters have.
Right.
It basically takes whatever character you're currently running and says, okay, this is a normal character now. Which is why I think they got so lower costed, is because by comparison, they're just generally like they lose a lot of that extra stuff in advantage or in favor of utility, and I think that's really where they shine.
Also,
of course, the helmet also has the strat to give it brave, so there's a bunch of other stuff.
I'd actually argue these two should be swapped because helmet really doesn't have a. It's more for blue decks, but has a little bit of utility in an orange deck with plan, but not too much. The collar's a little more useful in a blue deck, even though it's more designed for orange, because Pierce or Focus can be helpful for blue.
I mean, if you want to move them a little closer, like, I'm okay with that. Because they're not far off each other, honestly.
Yeah.
They're both really good choices for heads.
Like, I'd put the helmet between Deliberata, or no, the collar between Deliberata and Ironic, and the helmet at the bottom of B tier.
I would honestly put both of the heads above a Deliberata between Gilthor. I think they're more useful that way.
Differ just because,
and especially now without the health heads.
I beg to differ just because of the fact that we haven't really seen them a whole lot in play. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some shenanigans. Like, you were planning on using a deck before Bill forced Titan 1 back into the game.
Ugh. I have a bunch of decks that I want to try with the Quint heads, but it all relies on having both of them out.
Yeah, because Squid Pro Quo is such a good card.
Squid Pro Quo!
Also, Squid Pro Quo with Abominus. You're welcome. Anyways, let's talk about Nacelle transitioning from Quintessence to Decepticons, funny enough.
Oh, gosh, Nacelle. I love Nacelle's art. Nacelle's art is so good.
I mean, it's just a colored version of, like, what? It's either Thrust or Dirge, I'm pretty sure.
Thrust. It's the specific wings that Thrust has.
Right.
That Nacelle also has.
Nacelle definitely has a place. Like, we've seen Nacelle run with... Let's see, what is it? I know
Ramjet.
Ramjet, yeah. Like, you probably all have seen the infamous match where I rage quit like 3 hours before and then came back and then beat Tank on a last-second miracle thanks to Briscoe. Wait, were you running Nacelle with that deck?
Yes.
Okay, but like Nacelle
Nacelle
has a place, and let's not overlook the fact that extra upgrades is always a win. But
it's a potential enabler for OA, if you want to look at it that way.
But the problem is nobody has been able to figure out how to get an OA build down, because, like, aside from that, Nacelle really does not gel in an OA deck.
Yeah, Nacelle just doesn't, like, there's no bold or anything like that you can really take advantage of. Nacelle gives a couple plus stats, which is nice, and it'll help your big swing character to survive.
Ramjet, or in some cases, a Bombshell. Like, I've tried Nacelle with
Ramjet, Bombshell, Ruckus.
Maybe not Ruckus. He has other uses.
Ruckus does have other uses. Ruckus has very fun uses with a certain stratagem.
Trigger Convention is busted. You can't convince me otherwise.
Trigger Convention is great. I love it.
It is fun. It is a fun strat. It's definitely one of the fun ones.
I should have run it for this event, honestly, but it's not legal. Anyways. How about Dark Awakening Prime? How about that Dark Awakening Prime?
We have not placed Nacelle yet.
High C. I think he's High C. Or Nacelle is High C. Sorry.
Okay. Dark Awakening Prime. I'd argue bottom of B tier. Like, he feels like he fits into that Prime mold of being like a centerpiece. And like, I've run him with ASP and done some good things, and then I realized that Gyrick exists, but he definitely has his uses. Like, let's not overlook the fact that he gives plus health if he's sitting around with utilities. The fact that he gets a free, essentially basically a free Energon Axe at the start of the game. He recovers green cards, which we've already talked about how good that is with Ayuk.
Mm-hmm. And then even further, on top of that, his bonuses that he gives for your other characters, you can play around with that really, really easy. The faction stuff is not as harsh as it sounds on paper. And again, there's more stuff coming out. There's things like 38 amp ionic plate, which is being run a lot now, that like, as long as your character isn't a mercenary, which most characters aren't, they get +1 defense. And we have a couple mercenary upgrades, things like valuable contract or
no Naga Decepticons do not count as mercenaries. We had this discussion earlier.
Also, side note, Shock Blast, who is in fact a mercenary with his stratagem, allows or enables this. Right. So you can give your other character +1 attack. I like him. I think, honestly, he is... I would put him further up B. I don't think he's below the heads. A little further. I think he's past the Alicons. Yeah, that feels good.
I don't think he's that high. Like, the Alicons have at least seen a little more play. Dark Awakening Prime, not as much.
That's true. That's true. If you want to go specifically by tournament rankings, you're correct. Dark Awakening Prime has really not seen that much play.
I'm just looking at where his niche is in lists, and right now I don't think he's really seemed to have found it yet. Like, independently, he's a good card, don't get me wrong. It's just he hasn't found that niche yet.
Again, he's another one of those characters that it's going to take some time to actually figure out where he slots into a list, what other characters you can use to support him, and what easy ways you'll have to enable the rest of his kit.
Like I said, he seems like a natural fit in a patrol build. It's just a matter of figuring out which one he's actually going to gel with. Moving from a character that really hasn't found its niche to a character that's probably going to find it real quick soon, Rabble Rouser. I expect this guy to be a staple in sideboards once BFB hits.
Yeah, with Junkions on the way, more Quintessons coming. Rabble Rouser hasn't made a showing yet.
But that's just because of how
But expect to see him later.
But the way that Junkion seemed to be shaping up, I mean, you used it in Harmony Wastelands 1, and yeah, Junkions are looking pretty good. Like, they have
Junkions are looking good.
They have some wacky things. Like, when you first read them, you are going to openly question your sanity and probably Bill's sanity about why anyone would ever want to play it. Just use Dare to be Stupid once and you'll be convinced that these things are good.
Yeah, the Junkions are ludicrous. And Rabble Rouser being able to pretty much directly provide a hard counter, because that's not something where you're like, oh yeah, he's kind of useful against Quintessons. He has like an off synergy. No, +3 when attacking a Quintesson, +3 when attacking a Junkion.
And considering
he's gonna be a pain in the butt.
Considering what Quintesson lists we've seen do well and what Junkion lists we expect to do well, Shark lists very rarely run blue, if at all, so they can get punted very easily by Rabble Rouser. Mm-hmm. And Junkions, we haven't figured out Drifters yet, which are more blue heavy since they are not literally not able to use orange icons. And Bandits we've seen do a lot of things, which are the ones that can't use blue icons. They have very limited defensive capabilities outside of Dare to be Stupid, and also I think that's it. So Rabble Rouser is going to hurt them a lot.
Yeah, expect to see a lot more Rabble Rouser in the coming months.
Is it crazy that I want to put him in A? Like, I want to put him in A tier on a speculative level, but I think we should put him in high B tier for now.
I would actually put him under Gilthor. I think Gilthor is slightly more useful, but, if we come back to this and we do a BFB tier list after a couple encounters in the next series, just cheekily throw Rabble Rouser in there and be like, yeah, this is where Rabble Rouser stands. Our predictions were awful, correct, wrong, entirely flat out stupid, whatever.
Speaking of characters that are awful, Red Wizard / Mara Al Utha. Is it wrong that I want to say cup tier here?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm putting him below Armada. Here's the problem. He's stapled to blank cards. Like, we've seen Skywarp and Barricade do this before, and they have just flopped horrifically. Like, stapling anything to blank cards that hard is a problem. Now, you can have some synergy with blank cards. We see a couple of Junkions do this, and they're fine. But hard stapling things to blank cards is a bad idea. Like, I think we should explore it a bit more at some point, but just none of the blank support pieces have stuck.
I don't think it's the blank cards that are the issue, because Skywarp, Wave 2 Skywarp, he saw a decent amount of play. He's generally considered to be pretty good.
Your meta must have been weird, because I never saw him.
I've seen him dish out beatings quite handily. The issue I see with Red Wizard is not that he's associated with blank cards, it's that he's associated with blank cards and star cards.
Oh yeah, there's that
the two hardest things to work with in a deck.
Especially if you're playing solo jobs, since you don't get star cards off of that.
Yeah, it's a lot harder.
That was a joke.
It's a lot harder with Red Wizard.
Yeah, cup tier though.
I see a list. I can kind of formulate a list mentally, but I have no idea how it would work.
I can't even
Red Wizard.
I can't even formulate a list, so kudos to you for that. Okay. Savage Wheelie. Ooh, how do we talk about this guy? First off, the rhyming, thank God, like, it's not as cringy as the alliteration that Bill insists on putting on cards. Sharktacon Tyrant was a better subname.
Shut up, Megalomaniacal Mariner's better.
You just acknowledged that Sharktacon Tyrant existed.
Ratio.
What do you mean ratio?
Ratio.
Anyways, now that Tank has properly been tied up in the corner and his mouth has been duct taped shut because he refuses to admit the truth about Sharktacon Tyrant's subname. Shut the hell up or I will throw a boot at you. Anyway.
Oh, God.
This ain't making it in the video.
This is absolutely making it in the video, and you know it is.
Anyway, Savage Wheelie, where do we start with this? Like, he's a overcomplicated version of Belligerence and End Hostilities in one card, and I feel like you have some strong feelings about one of those cards.
I hate Belligerence with a burning passion. The issue is that for Wheelie to be his most effective, both players need to be playing the same color.
Right, and that makes him inherently a sideboard piece, but why? He's 6 stars. Why would you play him over Rabble Rouser of all things?
Yeah, why would you play him over Rabble Rouser? I mean, the putting an Energon Slingshot from your deck is not bad. Energon Slingshot's a decent card.
I guess, but again, let's go back to the 6-star thing. Like, you could play Rabble Rouser, you could play
Bug Bite.
Yeah, you could play Bug Bite. He's a thing. Like,
Iok plus Strat.
Right. Is it wrong that I want to put him in cup tier?
I don't think he's cup tier. I think he has his uses, but he's a little bit too niche to really get a handle on things. I'd put him at the very bottom of D tier.
Okay, yeah, I can agree. Now we're moving into some powerhouse cards again. Biter for A tier.
I don't hate that. I
really don't think we can talk about one Sharktacon without inherently talking about the others. Except for Gnaw. I think he belongs in D tier, no question about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gnaw is the...
Let's talk about Gnaw first. Like, he is definitely the black sheep of the family, and, +1 health for each card under him seems decent, but you have to flip him so freaking much, and, his strat... For the 2 losers format, if you don't know how this works, basically you're running 2 decks, and each deck gives you a set amount of sideboard slots. because you don't have any sideboard slots to start off. You get plus sideboard slots based on the strats you take. Nas offers 3 of them, and I guarantee you nobody's playing it in the current 2 losers event that's happening right now. Because, like, this card is so, it is so bad. Like, I'm honestly, you know what, D's an insult to D tier. I'm throwing him in cup tier.
Yeah, the issue is just that he's a character with very, very little health that you want to keep alive and focus your deck around in order to build
the problem
them up.
here?
The problem is he is small,
Yep.
and I will crush him under my boot.
Yep, and it's like you have this Gnaw, and then you have the Arc Gnaw, which is just a whole nother problem.
Oh, good lord.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about the other sharks. But like,
We're here to talk about Chomp, who is the very top of A tier. Chomp is above.
I'd argue Chomp is above Biter just because he has utility and Invasion of Cybertron builds.
Oh, yeah. Chomp's ability to play a green upgrade and untap one of your Quintessence specialists, the combined pieces of those, that's huge.
Right, and let's not overlook the fact that both of those still have their place in a typical 4-wide Sharks build. Like, you're getting out Maceration Lasers in some weird circumstances. You're getting out Masher Bases. What other green upgrades do you want to play? You're getting out your Aspects.
Yeah.
Those are huge. And then Biter being I still function target, or like being the ideal target for Pitted Judgment. Like, if you're playing Sharks and you're just able to constantly bring back Biter using Pit, you're probably winning the game. Like, it is that good. Like, it is Yu-Gi-Oh levels of, if you get this going, you're probably winning the game. And like, this is an instance where in Transformers where I think that's okay, just because there's enough counterplay to avoid that.
Yeah, and there are some counterplay cards in BFA. I believe it's What Lies Beyond, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's a very niche counter, but also, what the heck? It just gave me an audio software issue. What the hell? Hopefully this records well, but anyways, but Biter, like, what were we just talking about? Hello?
I'm here.
Okay, for a second I thought this decided to glitch. Where
Biter good. That's what we were talking about. Biter good.
No, like the exact point we were on. What was it?
He is very, very good because you just keep rezzing him over and over again, and he hits like a truck.
What was the point? Hold on, I'm gonna go check
That's about the point. That's about the point, Hawk.
I'm going to check the recording. Hold on. Okay, now I remember what we were talking about. We were talking about counterplay. I was saying basically like, whatever you were saying before, Tank, but we also, direct damage is still a thing, and these guys have such low health pools where that is very much a viable option. So, I think we've said all we've said about Biter, and then Peck, like, on flip turn 1, you give one of your Sharks Bolt 1, nice opening move with Biter. Also, Biter has that ability to give an extra attack. In Sharkatron decks, that's pretty potent. Like, I mean...
Oh my gosh. Zero, the Sharkatron deck that Zero was running, it reamed me with that.
Yeah, it got to be 2, but then again, also game 2, that was because of an all-out attack on turn 1.
He did that turn 2 against me too, so I feel your pain.
I'm pretty sure it was a 1-of in his deck as well, I don't remember. Anyways, but Peck, like, being able to get that bold 1 on flip turn 1 is fantastic, and also... recovering orange cards, like, can we talk about how powerful that is? We've been talking about how powerful recovering green cards is. Orange cards, recovering those is pretty up there. Like, not as good as
Supercharge, grenade launcher, belligerence.
Just because, again, orange being one of the core 2 colors you're building around. If you're playing a blue deck, you have no use for it. But still, it's pretty good.
I mean, there is use for recovering an orange icon in a blue deck. If you run a couple copies of belligerence in a blue deck...
Right, or thermal weaponry.
Or thermal wep, yeah.
Can you tell I like thermal weaponry?
Yeah, Hawk is a thermal weaponry fiend.
I mean, there's a reason that in the Wave 4 and 5 Hot Takes video, John brought me back from the dead with a pair of thermal weaponries. But,
oh, boy.
Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Shock Blast. Shock
Blast good.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Weren't you saying in a video a while back that Okay, roll the footage!
Shock Blast is definitely a shitty card.
You seriously want to say Shock Blast is good without addressing this?
Okay, Shock Blast is good. I To be honest, I overreacted at the fact that he doesn't have his Battlemaster trait because it means that it kills any synergy he has with characters who want Battlemasters on their team, i.e. Spinister and Crosshairs. But I'm not going to argue against a 4-star Battlemaster who works really well with mercenaries. He's good. He's real good.
So where are we putting him then? B tier?
B tier.
Where are we putting him in B tier, though?
Above Optimus.
Yeah, okay. And also, he's an enabler for Detritus, as you saw in that spoiler video, so, yeah.
Oh, gosh, he is, yeah, he...
Well, remember, Detritus, well, you're groaning. Detritus is nowhere near as good as they once were, just because of the fact that, yeah, I broke it without scouting mission. That was funny. Speaking of Battle Masters, and actually kind of pseudo Battle Masters, Slitherfang. This is interesting. Like, his bot mode ability is pretty good, all things considered. But when you look at his alt mode ability and you read that line, do 1 damage to the upgraded character unless it's a Quintesson, like, Quintesson decks really don't want to be using him. And decks that would want to take advantage of him really don't. Like, the only character who I can think of who wants to take damage like that is Exhaust. But by the time you get Slitherfang onto him, he doesn't want to be taking damage anymore because he already has Beacon active.
I can imagine Slitherfang being good with Ironic, give him the extra defense, make him pretty strony.
Yeah, but the question is, what deck is going to be? What are you going to pair with those two at that point?
I mean, at that point, I'd probably just go with a full Alicons list: Ayuk, Ironic, Slitherfang.
Does Bolag
pick out whoever else you want?
Hold on, I'm gonna run the math on this here.
Or you could put in your favorite character, Hawk. It's Mr. Gyrick.
Oh, you're right. That would work. But yeah, a full Alicon team with Slitherfang would work because that's only 23 stars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you could. Oh, actually, the Quintesson heads.
Oh, you're right.
It turns the character into a Quintesson.
Yeah, but who are you putting? Oh, yeah, I guess you're right on that. Kinda. Also, Gyrick plus Slitherfang plus one of the Gators is 22 stars. I may have to go toying around with this after this stream.
Oh.
Or stream. What am I saying? Video. What?
Oh my gosh. The Skull Smasher, the Crash Bash, the 2 heads, and Slitherfang.
Might be worth a look into. Modifying my first King of the Jankyard.
Gotta look into it. Gotta look into that.
But I think we should put him in like C tier, like maybe between the Cell and Double Crosser.
Yeah, unfortunately, he just kind of hits Battlemaster syndrome. The Battlemasters are all good. They're not great. Sights is awesome, but I wish he was better.
Well,
cough.
We're not going to talk about that yet. Thanks, Scorp.
Oh, God.
Anyways. Now, I hate to end on a bad note, but I honestly would argue Toeline is cup tier.
I'd put him at D tier.
I beg to differ. Like,
his being able to recur actions is really strong.
How often have you seen this thing gone off?
You could. There's probably ways to do it, and Autobots tend to want to play a little bit more multicolor like that because of things like Matrix, which if you put 3 of in your deck with an Autobot leader, there's that whole play. I think that we're underselling Toeline a little bit. He's a little hard to work with because he wants that weird icon set. But I think if you manage to get it,
underselling, you're overselling him in my book.
I mean, he's got decent attack. He's a 5'11" 1.
I mean, I guess, but what else are you getting with him besides a pretty inconsistent ability and an alt mode ability that, like, okay, like, so what? I mean, I guess if you're playing an improvised shield and an orange deck, I mean, that's something, but you want to play him in a mixed deck, so I really don't know. Like, I honestly would say he's cup tier.
I think you have a reason to put him there. I'd argue he's probably D tier, but I think cup tier also works for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that is every BFA character, all 31 of them. Is there anything we want to adjust around last second?
That's hard.
I honestly don't.
Again, I think the Quint heads should be a little bit higher up. I think Optimus should actually be a little bit higher up too. Now that no,
Nah.
I think the Quint heads should be a little higher up because they turn whatever bodies into Quintessons, and there's a lot of good Quint tech you can use.
Especially with Decepticons, so I'm willing to move them up a little bit. I'll move Shock Blast down a little bit. Really, the only big question mark I have is Rabble Rouser, but I feel like based on what we know now, he's in a good spot. It's just a matter of when we roll around to BFB, how hot of a take is this going to look like?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's going to take time. And I think I predicted that too when I was talking about him when I first joined the server. I said, Rabble Rouser doesn't look that strong on paper, but as you introduce those other two factions, he's going to become a big deal.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be looking out for that 6-attack little dude who's dealing with who's dealing with Quintessons and Junkions.
Albeit, unfortunately, Turnabout's there does not stop it.
No, it doesn't. So time will only tell for young Rabble Rouser.
Yep, so I think we have a good solid list here.
I think that this is a very telling list of BFB, at least at the current moment.
Yeah,
or BFA, I should say.
BFB, we're not to the release of that yet. That's still a couple months out.
Not there yet.
So, yeah, that will do it for this tier list, and you can go ahead and start roasting us in the comments because we insulted your favorite character, I guess. And know that if you do that, that you will be forced to watch some bad Transformers content. I have a punishment for you. Anyways, that will do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw here today. If you did, there's a little red button you can push down below to show that. Hopefully we can get another one of these tier lists soon because, I mean, these are always fun.
Oh, hey.
Right, Ted?
Oh, no.
Oh, hi, Bill.
I just realized. What the hell is this?
Oh, no.
Why did you read my card so badly? What is this?
Oh, no.
Okay. Oh, damn it! You wanted us to win!